Hey folks, here with my buddy Phil Nelson in Phil Nelson's comic book store in San Antonio, Nelco Comics.
It's good to have you in San Antonio, Mike.
Thank you, Phil. Many people do not know that we were working on a title together, which is called Axicab. It's Phil's creation. It's a throwback to the Grindhouse movies of the 80s, and it's about a sinister taxi cab driver who picks up bad guys and then tortures them while he drives them around and finally finishes them off in a spectacular fashion.
You know, when I created Axicab, the concept is, in the 80s, I think it's, to me, the glory days of horror movies. You had Friday the 13th and Jason made everybody scared to go to summer camp. You had Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger made everyone scared to go to sleep and take a bath, if you remember that scene with the hand coming out of the water. You had, there you go, that was it. And then you had Child's Play with Chucky, made you scared of your sister's dolls. The list goes on and on. So, and the thing I liked about those films and those properties is they didn't take themselves too seriously. They had some fun with it. They had some over the top scenes, and that's what we wanted to do with Axicab. And I was super excited after we released issue 1. It sold out nationwide in 2 days, did really well. And so we're now doing a 5-issue miniseries featuring Mike Barron as the writer. So I was freaking out when Mike said yes. And in fact, we've got the artwork for the first story of issue 1 right now. Mike wrote this. It's the animal abuser issue. I'm not going to tell you all about it, but the art is fantastic. I am just peeking over, but you're not going to see it all. You have to use your imagination. But it's the animal abuser issue. And, Mike wrote some really great stories. It's always a double feature because it's got like the old EC books, where it was like an anthology with something tying it together. And so this issue is Animal Abuser, and the first story is about a guy who runs a dog fighting ring. Mike, I gave Mike some ideas of victims, and Mike's like, nope, I'm going with animal abusers. I wasn't even on my list, and I was like, dude, brilliant. A guy who runs a dog fighting ring gets what he deserves. And then, Mike, tell them a little about the second story with the cat. So we have a dog and a cat related, story in issue 2, first issue of the limited series.
Well, the second issue is about a guy who hates cats. And so whenever he sees a cat walking across the street, he guns it and tries to kill it, squash it. And if he succeeds, then he paints a silhouette of the cat on the front fender of his Chevy, which is kind of like World War II aces painting the silhouettes of however many German fighters they managed to shoot out of the sky. And he's got a grudge against cats because his ex-girlfriend had a cat, and every time he came over to visit her, the cat would piss on his clothes on the floor. This is based on a true incident. I can't tell you how I know that, but I want you to know that I've never killed any cats. In fact, I like cats. In fact, I had a cat for many years, but now I have dogs.
Your dog is actually famous. You've made Bob famous.
Bob is very famous. Bob has his own following. We should give him his own page on Facebook. You've seen Bob, especially if you're on X. Bob is the proud founder of the Bob's Ass Awards. You may have seen the Bob's Ass Awards. And you've all seen the picture of Bob from the front with his ears up. And Bob's got the greatest ears in dogdom. The ears are these enormous, super receptive receptacles that can pull in signals from outer space. They're like the extraterrestrial intelligence system. In fact, NASA just hired Bob to listen to the universe and transmit any strange information that he's getting out of his ears. And if you've seen a picture of Bob, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, anybody watching this show just saw Bob in the intro.
Oh, that's
He's
right,
featured
that's right.
prominently in the intro, so you know Bob and you've seen Bob, and every now and then he gives an award for somebody that deserves it.
These are not the same as the Howlin' Bob Award, which is given on behalf of Robert De Niro.
Oh, wow.
I haven't shown you the Howlin'.
I haven't seen the Howlin'
I'll
Bob
send you the
Award.
Howlin' Bob Award. And it's not the same as the Drunken Jerk Award, which is based on a hot sauce that I saw in a discount store. I bought the bottle and photographed it and immediately declared a new award, the Drunken Jerk Award.
Gotta love the drunken jerk. Well, I'm excited you're here today, Mike. Mike is here at my comic shop in San Antonio signing autographs for fans today. We're in a little bit of a break so we can join Pops and be here on Barkwire. But when Mike and I walked in this morning, this is the first moment we haven't been slammed.
That's right.
And what's really cool is there's more Nexus fans than any other property so far today, and yeah, of course they should be Nexus fans, but I kind of thought you would have more Punisher fans today.
Well, I did have a lot of Punisher fans, but Nexus is my own creation along with Steve Rude, great Steve Rude. And this is the last graphic novel that we did, the original graphic novel with art by Kelsey Shannon. It was a huge success. We still have some copies left. We are just about at the end of fulfilling the massive Nexus Omnibus project. And then we have another Nexus project to announce, but I am not at leave to tell you what it is. I have to trust my life coach and guru who's in charge of all my programs, and he'll let you know shortly.
We had one guy come in today who is a comic writer here in San Antonio, and Mike handed him this, and he legit wigged out that Kelsey Shannon did the art. He was like, it's Kelsey Shannon. And he was talking about how he is one of the most underrated artists. And this book is fantastic. Nexus Scourge.
Yeah, Scourge.
I need new glasses because I almost said source. I almost said scour. No, I'm kidding. It's Scourge.
I had my eyes lasered, Phil.
And it worked?
Yeah, the guy said, stick your chin here. I put my chin there, and he said, look here. Look here. All right. I said, all right, what? He said, you're free to go. And I said, well, when is the operation? He said, I just did it.
I don't think I could do that even. I can't put eye drops in my eyes.
I didn't feel a thing.
I can't. Bright lights, I'm like, my eye doctor said you'll never be able to have laser surgery because they would have to sedate you. You know what? It goes back to a traumatic incident in childhood.
Uh-oh.
And I can't remember what movie it was, but it was a horror movie that I was not supposed to be watching as a kid. How, back in the day, parents thought, if it's on TV, it's okay. And it was in the early days of HBO, where HBO didn't even run 24/7. The movies during the day, they would be running like a list of what's going to play tonight, starting at 7:00.
Yeah.
And then it would play through like midnight or 1.
Right.
And I see this movie, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but there was a scene where a guy gets this piece of wood stabbed into his eye, and they shot it in a way from the side where you see the board, like the big jagged piece of wood, push into the eye, and you see the eye flex. Great special effects, but it ruined me for I could even put Visine in my eyes because of that movie.
When I was 7 years old, my sister took me to my first movie in a theater, The Horror of Dracula.
Was it scary to you?
Yes.
It's kind of weird as you look at how we get desensitized, because you watch these vintage horror movies like Frankenstein, The Mummy, all the classic monsters, King Kong, and we watch it today and we kind of laugh. Nobody gets scared. But it's like, imagine if you're in that era when King Kong came out or Dracula came out, and you saw that for the first time, and you didn't see movies before that had those things. And now we're just super desensitized. And now we have movies like Hostel and Saw and everything is totally over the top.
Yeah, torture porn is not horror. Horror is when the hand of the unknown touches your spine and you feel something hostile, frigid, and deadly that you don't know what it is. Very few films achieve that effect. However, some of the scariest movies of relatively recent times, I think The Exorcist is the scariest movie of all time. Of course, it came out over 40 years ago. But since then, I've noticed a couple of horror movies that have been effective. One is The Ring. It's based on a Japanese movie. Another is the Japanese version of The Grudge, which will scare the shit out of you. Another is Exorcist 3. People say, oh, Exorcist 2 was awful. Yes, it was. But Exorcist 3 is truly scary. It's almost as good as Exorcist 1. And the reason is it was written and directed by William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist.
So it's true to the terror of the first one.
Yes, completely different, but true to it. And Father Karras reprises his role. But can you think of a horror movie in recent times that really scared you?
You and I talked about it earlier, Nefarious.
Yeah,
That was just, and it didn't scare. It's no jump scares, but it's just what was scary about Nefarious was that it seemed real.
that's
About a demon possessed killer.
Yes.
And the interrogations
Yes.
and it was so creepy that you left it unsettled.
It succeeds,
And that's scary.
it succeeds in putting that icy finger on your spine, and that's the true test of a great supernatural horror film. It's not a horror film; it is a terror film, and it's brilliantly done because the dialogue is so brilliant and smart. It's intellectual. It challenges your thinking, and that's what I treasure in a film like that.
And a lot of people don't know this because Nefarious did get a theatrical release and it did very well. But a lot of people don't realize that one of the writers of Nefarious was Steve Deese, who is on the Blaze Network, Glenn Beck's network. He has a show, the Steve Deese Show. And you would never think he would write something so creepy because he is like crazy smart political analyst, has an unbelievable memory. I would say a photographic memory. He can recall things that it's like, how does he know this? He's not looking at notes. And so, yeah, it's a very intelligently written, terror movie. That's a great way to phrase it. It's not a horror movie. It is a terror movie. And it's about a guy who is demon possessed and is a murderer and is in prison. And you see him shifting back and forth. And the acting was great. I don't even remember who the actors were.
Sean Patrick Flannery.
Oh, yes, Sean Patrick Flannery. Yes. It was so good.
Yeah, and he's a condemned killer, and he's going to be executed at 11 p.m., and the law requires a psychiatrist to interview him that afternoon and see if he's rational enough to be executed. And that's what the movie is about, because once the killer gets the psychiatrist alone in a room, he starts playing with him, and the mind games are astonishing, just astonishing. It's if you like brilliant, witty dialogue. It's not witty. I can't say it's witty. I keep saying that because then I watched Blue Moon, which is a movie about Lawrence Hart, who was Richard Rodgers' lyricist for many years. It has nothing to do with that, except that it starred Ethan Hawke. And I'm watching this movie and I keep looking, where's Ethan Hawke? Where's Ethan Hawke? Because the guy that plays Lawrence Hart is Ethan Hawke, and his acting is beyond brilliant. I didn't know it was Ethan Hawke until the movie was over. And we all know Ethan Hawke from Training Day or Born to Be Blue, where he plays the great trumpet player Chet Baker. And that was great casting because Ethan Hawke looks like Chet Baker. And I like movies about real characters when they cast an actor that actually resembles that person. Another example is Val Kilmer in The Doors, because he looked like Jim Morrison.
It's funny. There are very few actors that are so good that they become chameleons. And you don't like another one that falls into that category for me is Gary Oldman.
Yes.
Gary Oldman could be in a movie and you don't even say, oh, they cast Gary Oldman. You're just like, whoa. And then you're like, wait, that's Gary Oldman.
Where's
You
Gary
know, I mean, and that means that they are in it. They're convincing, you know, and I told you this earlier, but I'll tell your audience, I was in a movie this week and I realized how hard it is to act. So Jenna from One Tree Hill, the actress from One Tree Hill, is doing a movie. It's a Lifetime film, and they hired me to play her band leader in her band. So I play music. So I play music better than I act, and she is such a good actress. So one of the scenes, I'm not going to give away too much, but she's a girl who was a great singer, but washed out. She comes to her hometown. I'm on stage playing, and oh, we have a local legend in the crowd, and she almost made it, kind of thing. I call her up on stage, and she comes up and she looks at me and says, I hate you. And I thought she was really serious. I was like, oh crap, what did I do? I must have messed up my lines. No, she was acting. I was delivering lines barely, incoherently, having to think about what I was going to say, but she was so convincing when she said, I hate you. And it was more like I called her up on stage and made her do it, and she's just being silly. But I actually thought she was mad at me.
Did you read the script beforehand?
I did, but I was there on stage, and I was just like, oh crap, what did I do?
That's how good an actress.
I know
she is.
she's a great actress, but I also realized how hard it is to act because, you know, like I play on stage a lot, so I talk loud. I want the crowd to hear me. And I noticed like one of the actresses, I'm not going to give it all away yet, but she was in the movie Galaxy Quest. And they're in the audience doing their dialogue, and they're not talking loud. They're not projecting. They're actually talking quietly, like they're really talking.
It wasn't Sigourney Weaver, was it?
No. It wasn't Sigourney Weaver. But it was just kind of fun to be on set. In fact, I was supposed to have dinner with Mike last night, and he was supposed to fly in at 3, but I was supposed to shoot Monday, Tuesday, and then I'm clear for Mike to arrive yesterday. And then they moved my shoot days from Tuesday to Wednesday. So I'm like, Mike, Bill's going to pick you up. I'll see you tomorrow. And actually, I thought I would see you last night, but we ended up shooting till 1 in the morning. And then the rest of the cast was shooting till 4 in the morning to do more dialogue that didn't need the band. So I'm like, you guys are earning your money, doing a great movie. I mean, we shot maybe of the whole movie last night. We probably shot maybe 8 or 9 minutes of the film. I was there from 3 p.m. till 1 a.m. And so, you know, anybody that hasn't been on set, it's kind of interesting. You know, these actors and actresses do get paid a lot, but it is so draining to have to do the same thing over and over again and try to do it exactly the same way. It's mentally draining. I was exhausted. Like when I got back to the house last night, I literally was asleep in like 8 minutes. And I wasn't even trying to go to sleep. I was like, you know what? I'll watch the show. And I was like, I didn't even make it through the opening credits and I was gone.
I envy you. You know, Hitchcock used to torment his actresses, not the actors, the actresses, because he had a real problem with beautiful women by doing hundreds of takes.
It's draining.
Yeah. I'm watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the 5th time. It's a movie about movie making, among other things, but its insights into movie making are spot on. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a washed-up actor, Rick Dalton, who's trying to survive. He had a successful cowboy show called Bounty Law for many years, but now that era is over, just like the era of Maverick and Cheyenne and Lawman finally came to an end. So on the stage, on the downhill slide, his first stop is to start playing bad guys in Westerns. And the scene where they're filming the Western in the saloon, and there's this little girl with him. She's an actress too, and she's a very good actress. And he can't get the lines right. And you just see the frustration on his face, and he's blowing up, and he's going in the trailer, and he's beating himself up because it never happened to him before. It's because he's nervous that he's not going to have a career. Have you've seen that?
I haven't.
Oh my.
Okay, every time I talk to Mike, I add more to my list to watch. So
That's Tarantino's best movie far.
wait, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Oh yeah, no, I've seen that. I thought you referred to another movie. Okay, never mind. My brain is not working.
Bounty Law is that was probably what you thought. That's the
Yes.
show that Rick Dalton was doing.
Okay, that's what threw me off. Yes. See, Mike also has a high attention to detail. I'm worse than a little kid with ADD. And so I'm like squirrel. And so when you mentioned another movie, like, wait, what movie is this? And my brain's not working, but I haven't slept either.
Another movie about making movies, or in this case musicals, is All That Jazz, which is Bob Fosse's kind of an autobiography. And it stars, who does that star? The guy who was in 7-Ups.
No clue.
Well, he's a great actor. I can't think of his name. It'll come to me in a second. But he's no dancer.
I have a phone. I'll look it up.
And so if you have a Bob Fosse movie about Bob Fosse and the lead doesn't dance, it's a little bit of a problem. But there's great dancing in the movie, so it doesn't matter. If you want to see Bob Fosse dance, I recommend Kiss Me, Kate, which is Billions, a musical version of The Taming of the Shrew.
So Roy Schneider.
Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider.
Jessica Lange.
Yeah.
Dang, that's a good cast.
Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, wow. Well, you're in for a treat. And that, as long as you remember, mention Roy Scheider. That takes me to
Jaws.
no, not Jaws. It's another movie that he made. It's a remake of The Wages of Sin, about a man who commits a crime against the mafia in New York and has to flee to this hellhole of a South American country.
Let's look at his movie list. Which one is it? Beautiful Blue Eyes, Dark Honeymoon,
It's Sorcerer.
Chicago 10.
It's Sorcerer.
Sorcerer is the name of the movie?
Sorcerer is the name of the movie.
Well, that's not even on his top movies, but it's on your top movies.
It is. It's one of the greatest existential thrillers of all time. The thing about an existential thriller is you know that the protagonist is doomed from the start.
Seven Scroll?
Sorcerer.
It's really called Sorcerer?
Sorcerer.
You said it 8 times and I'm not hearing you.
Sorcerer.
It wasn't Sequest? Just kidding.
Sorcerer.
The phrase of the day is sorcerer.
Let's just Google Sorcerer.
Okay, but I want to see when it was made. Oh, it's 1977.
Yeah.
Wow. So he did 75 Jaws, 76 Marathon Man, and then Sorcerer.
It's brilliant. It's get the director, but it's a great director. Oh, William Friedkin.
They're transporting gallons of nitro across dangerous Latin American jungle.
That's right.
So it's not a fantasy film.
No, it's a thriller. And whoever survives the journey, because they hire 4 drivers to take 2 trucks by different routes, because the route is so dangerous, if they hit a bump, the whole thing's going to blow up and they're not going to make it to the oil well. It's about this oil well that caught on fire and it's blazing out of control. And the only way they can shut it off is with nitroglycerin. Well, you can guess what happens to one of the trucks, but Roy Scheider's truck makes it through. And whoever makes the truck through, they gave them this huge reward, like $100,000. And these guys, they're all desperados. They're all down in this South American shithole because they had to flee the United States because somebody's out to get them. And you think he's home free, but he's not.
So you didn't spoil it by saying he makes it. You just kind of set up the next phase. I was like, dude, you spoiled it. If the finish was, hey, I'm here, give me my money.
Well, I love existential thrillers. Another great example is The Wild Bunch. As you know, those guys are doomed from the get-go. And if you haven't seen The Wild Bunch, it's in the top 10 Westerns on everybody's list, one of the greatest Westerns ever made. It's Sam Peckinpah's masterpiece. Another great existential thriller is The Gray, starring Liam Neeson.
That is a good movie. I loved The Gray.
I watched that over and over.
I actually watched that one last week.
No kidding.
I did.
It's grim, Jim.
It really, it's a well done movie.
It is. It's about a group of roughnecks in an Alaskan oil field way up north, and they're flying south because they're taking a month-long vacation or something, and their plane crashes and goes down in the middle of nowhere, and they're being dogged by this pack of wolves. It comes up every night, and if you go off into the bushes to piss, they'll get you, and it's their struggle for survival. It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it really that was a cool movie. I enjoyed it. It's a lighthearted family film.
Do you have any existential thrillers?
I'm not good at those descriptions of what an existential thriller is. I'm not a writer like you. So I just say I like the movie. That's kind of the extent of my savviness.
What about Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia?
I haven't seen it, but I know the phrase because I love the movie Fletch.
You got to see Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. That's another Sam Peckinpah masterpiece.
It's like when Fletch passes out when he has to watch the surgery, and he wakes up and they're like, oh, he goes, where am I? He goes, you're in the records room. Can I get you anything? He goes, I'll have the Head of Alfredo Garcia and the Beatles' White Album, please. So I love Chevy Chase. So let's talk a little bit about you're here at NOCO Comics, where I'm segueing because Mike has some of his cool books here. Grab that white one up there at the corner.
Oh, yeah.
I want to. So he's almost sold out of this in the first 2 hours.
Yeah, I got one copy.
One copy left of Florida Man. It's funny. When I first met Mike, we were at a comic convention, and I went up. I was talking to him, and he was telling me about the concept for his Florida Man comic and also books. But I mean, if you Google Florida Man, you come up with some crazy stuff.
My favorite is Man Claims Syringe Found in Rectum is not here.
But if you read the newspaper headlines, that's where they come from. It's like Florida Man, it's they always have Florida Man in there. And so I thought this was great. And this is Florida Man 2 versus Hogzilla. So, this is a really fun concept. And he you got one copy left and you're here for another couple hours. So if you want his final copy of Florida Man 2, they better get here quick.
Yeah, they better. I have a script for Florida Man 3. It's the funniest comic book script ever written. But, the thing is that Florida Man does not hit the comic book fan bullseye. Comic book fans like superheroes, horror, barbarians, good girl art. And really, that's about it. You can think of something else.
That kind of hits the core. But anybody that reads that is just like, dude, I'm glad that I spent the time on this book. And they're glad you spent the time writing it.
Well, we'll do it. We are going to do it. If I could only get hold of Matt Weldon again. Do you know how to get hold of Matt?
I do. I'm friends with Bill Williams.
Right.
Bill Williams is the creator of Punchline. Or I think Matt and Bill created Punchline. Not the DC Comics Punchline, but I think the one they wrote is way better. Have you read it?
No.
It is, in current comic books, it's rare to find something refreshing. Everything's a rehash of something else.
True.
So the concept of Punchline that Matt Weldon and Bill Williams did is there's this grizzled female superhero. She has these great powers, and she's just finished this horrible battle, and she's dying. She's sitting in a cemetery on a park bench, bleeding out, dying. And this young millennial comes in. You know how some of these kids like to hang out in cemeteries and they think it's cool and edgy. Well, this girl comes in and sees her, and this grizzled old superhero woman transfers her powers to this young girl because she has to. And so this girl gets these powers, and the old hero does survive, but she wouldn't be able to fight anymore. So now she's trying to mentor her. And the old superhero girl is like, sometimes you have to kill the bad guy. And this girl's like, I don't want to kill anyone. I'm not going to kill anyone. And it's like this fight between this pragmatic old superhero that's like sometimes I'm fighting somebody and they're going to kill millions of people, so I got to take them out. And this girl's like, no, we can save them. And it's a clever concept, I thought. Have you seen that in comics?
Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I have one here. I'll give you one.
All right.
But it's called Punchline. Matt did the art. Bill Williams wrote it. And then Matt's not doing as much of the art anymore. I don't know if he's doing any, but Bill is still inking it and writing it.
We're going to talk about that. Matt did the art for Monster Hunt, which stars Nexus, Lone Star, Bigfoot Bill.
So that's a Mike S. Miller Lone Star.
Yes, it is.
Mike S. Miller is a good friend of mine from San Diego, who one of his claims to fame was he did George R.R. Martin's Hedge Knight comics. He did the art for those. He also did a ton of work on the Injustice series for DC, based on the video game Injustice. And Mike is, and he created Lone Star, which is a Texas superhero, kind of old school bomber jacket, goggles kind of hero, kind of living in the past in a way, fighting crime. And Mike did a great job on Lone Star. And I love it that you have that with Nexus, Matt Weldon, Lone Star, all together. That's really fun. I never realized the Lone Star was in that.
Are you going to have a copy? Yeah, I hope to be working with Mike on project.
He is so talented. I don't know. I'm not giving away any secrets, but Mike had a stroke recently.
I know.
And what's been really cool is that he's been doing these Facebook Lives talking about recovery and, how he's retraining his hands and I think his drawing hand is okay still.
Yeah, I've seen some drawings.
And so, you gotta, the guy's a fighter. He's a very talented artist. His artwork is intricate. You gotta check out. It's Monster Hunt with Nexus. What's it called?
Monster Hunt 2. Let's get cracking.
Let's get cracking.
Kraken.
Like release the Kraken.
Very much. And I have the only copies. If you want some, contact me. They're $25 a piece plus postage. I'm carrying a handful of them to El Paso tomorrow. I'll have a handful of them in El Paso.
Excellent. I'm going to say something totally juvenile.
Go ahead.
One time my son had to go to the bathroom and he's like, Dad, I need to go release the Kraken. I was like, oh, I laughed so hard at that. Bathroom humor. I have the sense of humor of a 15-year-old, so I can get along with my kids really well. But releasing the Kraken is a funny way to say it, isn't it?
Yeah, we used to say
like in Clash of the Titans, you see it, explode.
Drain the weasel.
Drop the kids off at the pool.
Yeah.
Or take the Browns to the Super Bowl.
Right.
We have totally derailed here on Barkwire today. I'm delirious and Mike is just creative. So
incoherent.
Incoherent.
So thanks for watching.
Thank you, Pops.
Thank you, Pops.
If you missed the live viewing of any Meg production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. Madness Entertainment Group.